Kremlin has said that Russia will never attack anyone first. However, Russia has also said that it will have to respond if the United States started developing new missiles after quitting Cold War-era treaty. Meanwhile, the Russian foreign minister has asked the U.S. to explain its intentions to exit the treaty.
Что касается позиции Соединенных Штатов по договору о ракетах средней и меньшей дальности, то я пока еще не видел решения президента США. Я слышал о намерении, которое было объявлено, и слышал о реакции, в том числе в самих Соединенных Штатах, реакции достаточно противоречивые. Высказываются как мнение в поддержку такого намерения, так и мнения, которые считают это намерение неправильным.
Now joining us now is our correspondent Lucy Taylor from Moscow. Lucy, my first question to you is that why is it happening at this point of time?
Yes, well, the truth is we don't know the reason behind that timing. His National Security Advisor, John Bolton, is in Moscow at the moment. He arrived last night on a two-day visit. So perhaps that's something to do with it, or perhaps that visit was timed for this decision. We don't know. But what we do know is the reaction to this, the absolute enormity of this decision to withdraw from this treaty, which has been which was agreed more than 30 years ago. 1987, President Ronald Reagan signed this agreement in the White House with the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. And ever since then, this agreement has been in place. It bans the use of short or medium-range missiles. So from Russia's perspective, that's missiles, for example, that could target Europe or Alaska. And it has been in place since then, yeah. And the reaction from Russia has been fairly strong and fairly critical, unequivocally so, really, from those we've heard from so far. We heard from the Deputy Foreign Minister, Sergei Ryabkov, who said this was a very dangerous step. He said that Russia would not take ultimatums or blackmail from the US, and if the US does go ahead with this decision to withdraw, then Russia would have no choice but to retaliate with measures of a military technical nature. He didn't go into any more details of that, but we assume it means that they would begin again to build these missiles. Of course, President Trump accuses Russia of violating the treaty already. There are possibly other reasons as well, though. I think he may feel, some analysts suggest he may feel a little bit nervous about other newer nuclear powers, such as China, perhaps Pakistan, and others, of course, which have emerged since then and which are not party to this treaty. So perhaps one of the things that will be discussed is whether it's possible to negotiate a new version of this treaty to include those powers, or to make some changes to the existing treaty with Russia rather than scrap it altogether. Some analysts are saying that might be possible, looking to other agreements that Trump has threatened to withdraw from, like NAFTA earlier in the year, early in his presidency, and then at the last minute decided to go ahead with, but with some changes. So perhaps that's going to happen here. It's very early days, we just don't know yet.
Now, is there any room for any third-party intervention? Is that a probability?
Well, it's possible. You'd expect NATO to be on side with Trump. The UK has suggested that it would be. But as you say, Germany's foreign minister expressed some reservations about this decision itself. You're right that Russia has been increasingly isolated ever since 2014, when these economic sanctions were imposed on Russia because of its alleged bad behaviour in the world, because of annexing Crimea from Ukraine, and other things that have happened since then. This year that has ramped up even more with the attack on the former spy Sergei Skripal in the UK, when we saw Europe, the US, other countries like Canada and Australia all standing very firmly together against that attack, imposing new sanctions, expelling diplomats. On this decision, it doesn't seem to have been as considered. It seems to be unilateral on the part of the US. So we'll have to wait and see how much the other countries come out to back the US or express reservations about the fact that this could lead to a new arms race. There is also another treaty to consider, the New START treaty, which was signed under Obama, which is due to expire in 2021. It was expected that treaty that covers intercontinental missiles, so the very biggest, largest missiles, it was expected that that treaty between Russia and the US would be negotiated and probably extended, but now everything's in question, and I think we'll have to wait and see what effect this has on the world order, on what other countries say about it, all of these things together.
And has the talk already started with John Bolton in Moscow? Has that started?
Well, it's likely that it will do. We know that Mr. Bolton this morning has been meeting, or earlier today has been meeting with the Russian National Security Secretary, so effectively his counterpart here in Russia, and it's extremely likely that this will come up. We've also heard from the Kremlin that Vladimir Putin, the president, plans to meet with John Bolton to seek answers about why the US has chosen to announce that its withdrawal from this treaty. From the Kremlin side, from the Russian side, they have said this isn't a done deal yet. There is a very specific procedure for withdrawing from this treaty, and so far that hasn't been triggered. It has just been announced in the media and announced with them. So it isn't done yet. This might go on further. Perhaps Mr. Putin will be looking to try to renegotiate, try to persuade John Bolton, to persuade the President Trump to change his mind. But it certainly will come up in discussions, and we'll hear from Mr. Bolton tomorrow evening when he is due to speak to journalists, and we might hear more then about what has come up in these discussions over the next 2 days.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me on this issue now.